Listen carefully. We collected stories for you. Dark stories. Now, the words will open the door to the void. Do not look away. Do not turn back. If your mind is steady, step forward. Welcome. Once you enter, there is no return. A dark Christmas tale. The package arrived on Christmas Eve, wrapped in faded red paper that looked decades old. Sarah found it on her doorstep with no delivery label, no return. Addressed just her name written in spidery handwriting she didn't recognize. She lived alone in the old Victorian house she'd inherited from her grandmother 6 months ago. The neighbors were distant, the street quiet. No one should have known she was here. Sarah carried the box inside, shaking off the December snow. It was surprisingly light, and something rattled inside when she moved it. She set it under her small Christmas tree, a pathetic little thing she'd bought at the grocery store, more out of obligation than holiday spirit. This would be her first Christmas alone. Her grandmother had died in spring. Her parents were spending the holidays in Florida. Her ex-boyfriend had moved on months ago. The house, with its creaking floors and drafty windows, felt more like a mausoleum than a home. But at least she had one gift to open. Sarah made herself dinner, tried to watch a Christmas movie, and kept glancing at the mysterious package. As midnight approached, she finally gave in to curiosity and picked it up. The wrapping paper felt strange under her fingers, not quite paper, more like old fabric, slightly damp. When she tore it open, the material seemed to resist, then suddenly gave way with a sound like a sigh. Inside was a wooden box, beautifully carved with intricate patterns. Snowflakes and holly leaves intertwined with stranger shapes, faces screaming, hands reaching. Something that might have been wings or might have been flames. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened the lid. Inside, nestled in rotting velvet, was a snow globe. It was exquisite. A perfect miniature Victorian house sat in the center, surrounded by tiny trees, heavy with snow. A small figure stood in the front window, a woman in a nightgown, her hands pressed against the glass. Sarah held it up to the light. The woman in the window looked so real, so detailed, almost like she dropped the snow globe. It didn't break. It rolled across the hardwood floor and came to rest against the wall, perfectly intact. And when Sarah picked it up again, her heart hammering, she saw that the woman in the window had moved. She was no longer pressing against the glass. She was backing away, as if frightened. "This is insane," Sarah whispered, but she couldn't look away. She shook the globe gently. Snow swirled inside, and when it settled, the woman was at the back door of the tiny house, trying to open it. Sarah could see her mouth moving, screaming something Sarah couldn't hear. The temperature in Sarah's living room dropped. Her breath came out in visible puffs. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Sarah looked from the snow globe to her own front window. The street outside was empty, blanketed in white. No cars, no people, just snow, falling heavier now, accumulating fast. Too fast. She looked back at the snow globe. The woman inside was banging on the door now, her mouth open in a silent scream. And behind her, in the tiny living room of the miniature house, something else was moving, something dark, something that didn't belong in a Christmas decoration. A text from an unknown number. "Do you like your gift? It was your grandmother's favorite. She spent her last Christmas inside it. Now it's your turn." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She looked at the snow globe again, really looked, and saw it written in tiny letters on the miniature house's front door. Her grandmother's address. This address. No. Sarah breathed. She threw the snow globe away from her. It hit the wall, but didn't break, didn't even crack, just rolled back toward her, as if magnetized. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Sarah heard the sound of tiny footsteps inside the walls. Dozens of Tim Hundrews, and a voice thin and distant. That might have been her grandmother's. Run. Sarah ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break, no matter how hard she hit them. The walls felt closer than they should be. The ceiling lower. Her phone buzzed again. In its pale light, she read, "The house always needs someone inside. Your grandmother lasted one Christmas. How long will you last?" Sarah spun around. The Christmas tree was gone. Her furniture was gone. The walls were blank. The house was empty except for her and the snow globe, which now sat in the center of the bare floor, glowing with a soft, awful light. She picked it up with shaken hands and looked inside. The tiny Victorian house was different now. The woman in the window was her grandmother, wearing the nightgown she'd died in. And behind her grandmother, trying to get out, was another woman, and another, and another. Generations of women, trapped in the miniature house, each one's Christmas present to the next. Sarah looked at her own windows. Outside, the world was fading, becoming translucent, becoming unreal. Inside the snow globe, a new figure was appearing in the window of the tiny house. A woman in pajamas, with Sarah's face, pressing her hands against the glass and screaming silently. The last thing Sarah saw before the transformation was complete was the calendar on the wall of her rapidly shrinking world. December 25th. Merry Christmas. The nursing home always went all out for Christmas. Lights on every window. A massive tree in the common room. Carols playing on loop from tinny speakers. But this year, something was different. Michael noticed it on his first night shift after Thanksgiving. The residents who usually loved the decorations were avoiding the common room. Mrs. Patterson, who'd helped them put up the tree for 20 years, refused to even look at it. "What's wrong with everyone?" Michael asked his supervisor, Janet. She shrugged. "Holiday blues. Happens every year. A lot of them don't have family visiting anymore." But it wasn't sadness Michael saw in their eyes. It was fear. On December 10th, Mr. Richardson died in his sleep. Natural causes, the doctor said. He was 89. It happened. But when Michael went to collect the body, he found Mr. Richardson's face frozen in an expression of pure terror, his eyes fixed on the window where Christmas lights blinked red and green. 3 days later, Mrs. Chun stopped speaking, just sat in a wheelchair, staring at the Christmas tree, tears running silently down her wrinkled cheeks. "She's been like that for hours," Janet said. Michael knelt beside her wheelchair. "Mrs. Chun, can you hear me?" Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "He's coming back." "Who's coming back?" "Santa Claus." Michael laughed nervously. "That's the spirit. Christmas is." "No." Mrs. Chun's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Not the Santa you know. The old one. The one who punished. The one who took." That night, Michael did some research. He found old stories. Folklore from before Coca-Cola and Macy's parade floats. Stories about Krampus, about creatures that came during the darkest nights of winter, wearing stolen skins and carrying chains. And he found something else, a newspaper article from 1963. A fire at a children's home on Christmas Eve. 17 children dead. The building had stood where the nursing home now stood. Same foundation, same walls. Mostly. The article mentioned something witnesses reported seeing a figure in a red suit leaving the building before the fire department arrived. But everyone who'd been inside said no one had gotten out. The children had been trapped. Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Janet. "Emergency. Common room. Now. Run." Found every resident who could walk crowded into the common room, all standing perfectly still, all facing the Christmas tree. Those who couldn't walk were being wheeled in by unseen hands, their wheelchairs moving on their own. "What's happening?" Michael grabbed Janet's arm. She didn't answer. She was staring, too, at the top of the Christmas tree, where the angels should be. something else sat. It was small, maybe the size of a doll, but it moved with horrible fluidity. Red velvet clothes, matted white beard, and a face that was too long, too narrow, with eyes that reflected the Christmas lights like a cat's. "Ho, ho, ho," it said, and its voice was wrong too deep, too old, coming from too far away. "Have you all been good?" The residents began to sing, not a carol, something older. Words Michael didn't recognize, in a language that hurt to hear. The thing on the tree grew larger with each verse. Its clothes were no longer velvet, but something that looked like flayed skin dyed red. Its beard was no longer white, but gray and matted with something dark. "Every year," it said, "they bring me back. Lights and trees and songs and joy. They think they're celebrating birth. They don't remember what Christmas was before. The winter sacrifice, the dark exchange, a gift for a gift, a life for a life." It was fully formed now, as tall as a man, standing on the floor in front of the tree. Its sack moved, bulging with shapes that might have been toys but sounded like they were crying. "I took the children once," it continued, 60 years ago. "But they weren't enough. They never are. So now I take them slow, one by one, year after year, until everyone who remembers is gone. And then I'll start again." Mrs. Chun stepped forward. "We remember. We know what you are, and we won't let you have anyone else." A thing laughed. "You're dying anyway, old woman. All of you. What difference does it make?" "The difference," Mrs. Chun said, pulling something from her pocket, a match, "is that we choose." She lit Italiano. Michael didn't understand until he smelled it. Gasoline. Someone had soaked the tree, the carpet, the walls. "No," he shouted, but Janet held him back with impossible strength. "Let 'em," she whispered. "It's their choice. They're ending it, breaking the cycle." The fire spread fast. The thing in the red suit shrieked, a sound that shattered windows and sent Michael to his knees. The residents stood in a circle around it, holding hands, singing their strange song as the flames consumed them all. Michael and Janet got out. Barely. The fire department arrived, found nothing but ash and twisted metal, and in the center of the ruins, a pile of old bones, children's bones, 17 of them, finally released. The nursing home was never rebuilt. The land was blessed, then paved over. A parking lot now, nothing special. But every Christmas Eve, Michael drives by just to make sure, just to check that nothing is growing there, that no one has put up a tree or strung lights, because he knows the truth now. Some gifts aren't meant to be given. Some traditions should stay buried, and some things that wear red suits and carry sacks aren't bringing joy to the world. They're collecting debts that were never owed. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, but not everything that shines in the darkness is a star. Elena received the same Christmas card every year for 23 years. It always arrived on December 15th. It was always the same. A vintage image of a snow-covered house with smoke curling from the chimney, golden light in every window, and inside, written in perfect copperplate handwriting, "Merry Christmas. See you soon. J." No last name, no return address. Jos Hota. Whose Hota? Elena had tried everything. Changed addresses 4 times. Gotten married and changed her name. Moved across the country. The card always found her. Her husband, David, thought it was romantic at first. "Secret admirer from your past. I don't know anyone whose name starts with J," Elena said. And it was true. She'd gone through every yearbook, every old photo, every memory. No J. No one who would send cards for 2 decades. This year, the card arrived like clockwork. But this year was different. This year, the house on the card looked familiar. Elena stared at it, her coffee growing cold. That porch, that distinctive gable window, the old oak tree in the yard. "Davy," she called. "Come look at this." He came in from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder. "Another one. Look at the house." David studied it. Then his face went pale. Is that your parents' old house? The one they sold when you were a kid?" It was. The house Elena had lived in until she was 6, before her family moved across the country. A house she barely remembered except in dreams. She turned the card over. Same handwriting as always. But this time, the message was different. "Come home for Christmas. It's time, Jay." "That's it," David said. "We're going to the police." But Elena couldn't stop staring at the card. A memory was surfacing. One she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten it was there. A childhood friend. They'd played in that yard, in that house, hide and seek, tag out. And one winter day, when Elena was 6, her friend had disappeared. Just gone. Vanished from the backyard while they were building a snowman. Elena's parents had called the police. Search parties, news. But the friend was never found. Elena's family moved away 2 months later. Fresh start, her mother had said, but Elena remembered the way her parents looked at her sometimes. Like they were afraid. Like they knew something they'd never tell. "What was their name?" Elena whispered. "What?" David asked. "My friend, the one who disappeared. What was their name?" She couldn't remember. Couldn't picture their face. Just a feeling of friendship, of loss, of something important that forgotten. Elena dreamed of the old house, of playing in the snow, of hide and seek, of counting to 10, while her friend hid. "Ready or not, here I come." But she never found them, never stopped looking. Spent 23 years, counting, while her friend waited in their hiding place. Elena woke with tears on her face and a name on her lips. Jamie. She booked a flight the next morning. David begged her not to go. "This is crazy. Whoever's sending these cards is dangerous. It's been 23 years, Elena. Your friend is gone. You need to let it go." But Elena couldn't. The pull was too strong, the guilt too heavy. She'd been the seeker. She'd been supposed to find Jamie, and she'd given up. Moved away. Forgotten. The old house looked exactly like the Christmas card. Elena stood in front of it, snow falling around her, and felt 6 years old again. It was abandoned now. Windows broken, porch sagging, but the door opened when she pushed it. "Jamie," she called. Her voice echoed in the empty rooms. The house was gutted. Nothing but bare walls and rotting floors. But as Elena walked through it, she remembered the living room where they'd watched cartoons, the kitchen where Jamie's mom made hot chocolate, the stairs to the second floor where they'd... Elena stopped. There had been no stairs. This had been a one-story house, but stairs there were, leading down into darkness she didn't remember. She descended, found a door at the bottom, opened it. The basement was finished, carpeted, warm. Christmas decorations everywhere, a tree in the corner, lights blinking, and sitting in a chair in the center of the room, wrapped in cobwebs and dust but perfectly preserved, was a child. Him, still 6 years old, still waiting. Elena's legs gave out. She knelt on the floor, shaking. "Jamie, you've been here for 23 years. Has it been that long?" Jamie looked puzzled. "It's been one game, one Christmas. You left in the middle of hide and seek. That's cheating, Elena. You're supposed to keep playing until you find everyone." "I'm sorry," Elena sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Jamie said, standing. They looked exactly the same. Same clothes. Same face. Not a day older. "You're here now. You found me. Game over." Jamie walked toward her, and Elena saw Etha Christmas card. In Jamie's hand, the Samakart, the original, sent over and over, calling Elena home. "Now we can play a new game," Jamie said, smiling. "This time, you hide, and I'll see forever, and ever, and ever." Elena tried to run. The door was gone. The stairs were gone. There was only the basement room with its blinking Christmas lights, and its impossible child and its endless game. And every year, on December 15th, someone receives a Christmas card. A vintage image of a snow-covered house with a basement that shouldn't exist. And inside, "Merry Christmas. Come play with us. E. and J." The game never ends. The seeker becomes the hider, and Christmas lasts forever. The advent calendar hung on the wall of apartment 4B for exactly 1 week before anyone noticed something wrong. It was beautiful hand-carved wood with 24 little doors, each one painted with a different winter scene. Snowflakes, holly, bells. The landlord had hung it in the hallway between apartments as a festive touch for the holidays. On December 1st, someone opened the first door. Behind it was a tiny figure, a man in a coat, carved from wood so detailed you could see the buttons. On December 2nd, the second door revealed a woman with a shopping bag. On December 3rd, a child with a sled. The residents of the building thought it was charming. A nice change from the usual sterile hallway. They took turns opening the doors each morning, curious to see what figure would appear next. But on December 8th, Mrs. Kowalski in apartment 4A noticed something strange. "The figures," she told her neighbor, Tom. "They're not where they should be." Tom looked at the calendar. "What do you mean?" "The first figure, the man in the coat. He was standing straight. Now he's bent over, like he's walking." Tom laughed. "You're imagining things." But the next morning, Mrs. Kowalski called Tom again. "Look at them." "Really? Look." Tom did, and she was right. The man in the coat was now 3 doors over from where he'd started. The woman with the shopping bag was turned around, facing back toward door 1. The child with the sled was lying down. "Someone's moving them," Tom said. "Kids playing a prank." They set up a camera, but the footage showed nothing, just an empty hallway. And yet, every morning, the figures had moved. On December 12th, the building's superintendent, Carlos, opened that day's door. Behind it was a figure of Santa Claus, normal enough, except Santa was holding something, a list. And if you looked very, very closely at the tiny carved paper, you could see names, every resident's name in the building, with check marks next to some, and X's next to others. "This is a sick joke," Carlos said, taking the calendar down. But when he tried to remove it from the wall, he couldn't. The screws wouldn't turn. Wood wouldn't budge. It was as if the calendar had grown into the wall, become part of the building itself. That night, Mrs. Kowalski in 4A didn't answer her door. Her daughter came the next morning with a key and found the apartment empty. Completely empty. Not just her mother gone, but her furniture, her photos, her clothes. The apartment looked like no one had ever lived there. On the calendar, next to the figure of the elderly woman, a small X had appeared. Panic spread through the building. 5 families moved out that day. But when they tried to leave, they found their apartments had changed. Doors led to different rooms. Windows opened onto walls. Stairs went up but ended in ceilings. They were trapped. Tom watched from his apartment as, one by one, the check marks on Santa's list turned to X's, and one by one, apartments went dark and silent. On December 20th, only 3 residents remained. Tom, Carlos, and a young woman from 5C, named Maya. "We have to destroy it," Maya said. "The calendar, that's what's doing this." They tried everything. Hammers, axes, fire, The calendar wouldn't burn, wouldn't break, wouldn't even scratch. There are 4 more days, Carla said. 4 more doors. 4 more figures to appear. Tom looked at the calendar, at the figures that had all migrated now, all crowding around door 24, the final door, waiting. What do you think is behind that one? Maya whispered. They didn't have to wait long. On December 21st, the next door opened by itself. At midnight, behind it, a figure of Tom. On December 22nd, Carlos. On December 23rd, Maud. 3 perfect wooden figures, detailed down to the expressions on their faces. A hand, then another, then dozens, hundreds, all the missing residents, all the ones who'd received X's on Santa's list, all reaching back into the world they'd been taken from. Please, Mrs. Kowalski's voice came from the darkness. Please, let us out. We've been good. We promise. We've been good. Tom understood then. This wasn't an advent calendar counting down to Christmas. It was counting down to judgment. Every door opened revealed who would be taken. Every figure that appeared was sentenced, and the final door was mercy. A chance to take someone's place, to pull someone back from whatever waited behind those wooden panels. Tom reached for his wooden figure. Carlos reached for his. Maya reached for hers. If they put the figures into the void, maybe they could pull someone else back. Maybe they could save Mrs. Kowalski and the others. But there were 3 of them, and dozens had been taken. They couldn't save everyone. Tom looked at Carlos and Maya. They looked back. Without speaking, they made their choice. All 3 stepped forward into the final door, into the darkness, volunteering, trading themselves for the ones taken before. The hands in the darkness grabbed them, pulled them through, and pushed others out. Mrs. Kowalski stumbled into the hallway, then her neighbor, then another, then another. One by one, all the missing residents returned, confused and crying, not remembering where they'd been, but grateful to be home. The calendar snapped shut. Door 24 sealed itself. On Christmas morning, the building was full again. Everyone was home. Families, apartments occupied. And on the wall between 4A and 4B, the advent calendar still hung. Behind door 24, 3 new figures appeared. Tom, Carlos, and Maya, carved in perfect detail, smiling, at peace. The calendar would wait another year. It always would return to empty hallway somewhere else, in another building, with another group of people, to judge, to test, to take. But for now, the residents of this building had learned their lesson. Sacrifice, mercy, the willingness to trade yourself for another. The true meaning of Christmas, the calendar's dark lesson. And every December, when someone hangs an advent calendar, they should remember, behind every door is a choice. Behind every figure is a person. And behind the final door is the truth. That Christmas isn't about receiving. It's about what you're willing to give, even if what you give is everything.